Meredith Gorman here, and are you still not subscribed to Matt's channel? Well, if you're not, hit the subscribe button because he's giving out free picks each and every week. Hope you have a good rest of your day.
UFC Atlanta, Usman versus Buckley fight night card, guys. We are back in Atlanta. It's been a few years at least. I can't even remember the last time they went there. Actually intrigued about this main event, guys. Old versus new, right? Can't wait to see how this goes. We'll be breaking it down like always the main card. At least most of the fights on the main card provide free picks, leans, talk value, like always. Price, talks, and more. SystemSportsCapping.com or link.me/SystemCapping to support. Receive my personal place. Currently just handicapping the UFC PGA. NFL's around the corner, guys. NFL is around the corner. We'll have a season preview out in August. Future market is being monitored daily, personally by myself. We'll have a big future market card out in August as well. So look out for that. Let's do a UFC 316 recap. Let's do a recap here, guys, in Merab. What can you say about the guy? What can you say? I took him by decision, upset that somehow he found a submission. Last thing I probably thought it would be by submission. He's just not a submission artist. Sean took a chance, kind of was thinking that in the back of his head probably too, right? Merab doesn't get submissions. But hey, just continues to improve fight after fight. He looked much better in this fight, right? And then we all thought Sean would look better due to all his changes. But you know what? He did look good with his takedown defense at times, but once Merab gets a hold of him, he's able to keep him down there, right? He struggles to get up. First round, close. Second round, Merab, and then he just found the submission. It's just impressive by Merab. He's starting to talk about bantamweight GOAT, right? Cruz up there, a couple others in the discussion, but Merab's just unbelievable. One of the longest winning streaks you'll find in the UFC's up there, top 5. Now he's pound for pound number 2 in the world, guys. It's just impressive. Who is going to beat this guy? I think Corey Sandhagen's next. I don't see Corey beating him. I don't know. Maybe he'll move up. It'll be interesting to see. Well, I'd like to see the Umar rematch could come again. That was somewhat of a close fight, even though Merab won. Interesting. What's next for Sugar Sean? What is next for him? I want to see him against a striker. Put him against a striker in there. I think we'll see a better effort from him, right? It's just a terrible matchup for Sean, even though I did think he was somewhat live for a knockout if he caught Merab. The smart play obviously was Merab. Decision was more expected, but it didn't come there. Kayla Harrison, wow. Ran through Pena. Kind of called it, right? I expected an early finish. That was the play. The only path for Pena if it got to 4 and 5. Right? We haven't seen Kayla Harrison 4 and 5, especially with the weight cuts and stuff like that. It just doesn't get there. I just expect her to be too heavy on top and find a submission or ground and pound. That's what happened. Right? No surprises in that fight. The submission was live. The TKO prop was live as well. The one surprise was Pashi Mix, how he showed up. He didn't even show up, let's be honest. Terrible head movement, terrible defense. He got going a little bit in the third. Some people say maybe he stole that round. He did land some big shots. He actually hurt Batista in that round as well, but couldn't get any wrestling going. He barely attempted. He had one attempt. Just a terrible game plan. I don't know what he was doing. Maybe he was shocked he was in the UFC after all these years. I don't know. Some credit to Batista, too. Very good fighter. But a lot of hype around Mix, right? I took him over 2.5 in our main parlay that did cash for us. But I did lean to him on the decision, which didn't get there. 1 and 2 card last week, 14 and 4 pay-per-view run. This is average line plus money, guys. Plus money, average line, 14-4 pay-per-view. And overall cards, 28 and 12, all cards run. And that's for, I'm not saying all the year, but a long stretch, or 3-4 months now. Let's get right into it for you guys. Let's get right into the breakdown. Shop around, have multiple sports books, guys. I can't stress that enough. Don't have money in one account. It restricts you to that line. Have multiple sports books, put money in multiple accounts so you can get the best number out there. For UFC, it's one of the most important. NFL, maybe not, sure. Right? The lines, Dallas is favored by 7.5. It's probably 7.5 most places, right? Uh, with NFL, it's more, player props will vary in prices and yards, right? Another example, just saying Lamar Jackson throw over 230 yards. Another book you'll find at 225, maybe, right? So that's important for there. But yeah, can't stress that enough, guys. I like to stress that every podcast for you guys. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, it's much appreciated. Please leave a review. And if you're still watching on YouTube, I know a lot of people do listen via audio these days, but if you are watching on YouTube, please like the video. It does help out a ton. Let's get into the main event here. Buckley minus 280 versus Usman plus 210. This could be Usman's biggest underdog. Now, obviously the late notice fight versus Chimaev, I'm sure he was a bigger underdog. I could be wrong, but this plus 210 on Usman's definitely one of the biggest underdog prices Usman ever has been. I kind of get it. I get the Buckley. I don't get the Buckley 280. I get the Buckley 2-1 favorite, maybe minus 200, minus 220 at most. It's just the old versus the new, right? A lot of times this does happen. The old up and coming, the new up and coming fighter that's going to make that big step. This is the big win for Buckley. He even got that big win over Covington, but this would be the next step up for Buckley, right? Against the old head, right? The old head who's been there, done that, coming off 3 straight losses, older now, and a long layoff. That's key here, guys. The long layoff, almost 2 years. Right? You know me, if you've been listening to my podcast, I love to fade the long layoff, guys, or just stay away from the fight. Right? So yeah, 210 Usman, appealing, sure. First look, first glance, appealing, 210, sure. But there's just so many concerns with him. The knees as well. How good are the knees? The time away. Just a lot of questions with Usman coming in. With Buckley, very limited questions. Very limited questions with him. He's running hot right now. Best he's ever looked. And I get why he is the big favorite here. Obviously, you got to give Usman the resume advantage. Been there, done that, champion of the division. One of the best, actually, to ever do it, guys. Especially in this division. You got to give him his flowers. But there's always a time for the greats. And Usman's at the end of his time. Now, we do look at the resume, like I mentioned. Chimaev, Edwards are his last 3 losses, right? And Chimaev, that fight on short notice, he looked good, guys. He didn't look terrible, right? He won a round. He hung in there on short notice. You could also say Chimaev took that opponent on short notice as well. So I do factor that in as well. Both guys technically took the fight on short notice, but Usman kind of, I don't believe he was training for the fight. Yeah, that was an impressive showing. That's why I do believe, I don't think he's totally done, Usman. He wouldn't be taking this fight if he was totally done. I just don't like the situation of the long layoff, the legend, you could say, one of the best to do it, coming back and fighting an up and coming. I wouldn't even say up and coming. He's here. He came. Buckley is here, and he's ready to make that next step, in my opinion. Not totally writing off Usman. I do think he could win this fight. I don't love the price at minus 280. Of course, I won't be betting minus 280 straight up. You know me, I like to find some value. If I look at an outcome here, I probably lean more the decision. You don't see Usman getting finished often. If you do, it's from a wild KO, and that's possible with Buckley, right? You've seen Buckley get one of the best KOs ever from that spinning wheel kick. I don't expect that to happen again, but he's live for a big shot to land. But I lean Buckley more a decision here if I were to bet this fight. And like I said, I'm not totally writing off Usman here. I do think he's somewhat live to win this fight. It's just there's too many concerns for me to back him here. Buckley, I like a lot more active recently, getting big wins. Right? It's not like Buckley's been beating cans, and then this is the big, huge step up. He's coming off the win off Covington, right? He beat Luque in there as well. Ruzabov, good fighter. Steven Thompson. There's some good wins in there. So I do believe this is the perfect step up for him. From a stat standpoint and how I think the fight's going to play out, I don't expect much wrestling here. I do think it cancels each other out. If Buckley does attempt for takedowns, I think Usman could stuff them or get up. I expect this to play out on the feet. Maybe Buckley to be a little crisper, faster on the feet, and have that little more power shots. And I do think that's how he wins this fight. Excited, though. I'm excited for this fight. See what Usman has left. But I can't sit here and tell you really what Usman has left. I can just tell you what I've seen from his previous fights, but then now there's that 2-year-long layoff, right? So that's why I can't get too invested into this fight, as we don't really know what Usman will show. However, from breaking it down, from going over from long layoffs, and from Buckley's current form, I have to look at Buckley here. Thug Rose, minus 265 versus Miranda Maverick, minus 200. I think this is priced right. Thug Rose maybe minus 250. I do think it's Rose is the rightful favorite here. Love seeing Rose, right? Love seeing Rose in there. 2-3 in her last 5 fights, coming off a loss to Blanchfield. Just a terrible matchup for her. We know how to beat Rose. Take her down, try to control her right on the ground. You're not going to really win a stand-up affair in most cases versus her. And I don't think Maverick has the wrestling to take her down. I think it's a good matchup for Thug Rose. I think she can pick her apart on the feet. I expect Maverick not to be able to keep up with her on her speed and her movement. And Maverick's just not a good enough a wrestler to get this fight down to the ground. And if she does somehow get down to the ground, I don't expect her to control Thug Rose at all. I expect Thug Rose to get up. She's shown time and time again she can get up. Fight, I expect also go over 2.5 rounds. I don't really see a finish here. It's a good 2.5 over. Fight goes the distance is a look as well here. But good spot, I think, for Thug Rose to get back on track here with a win. Little too much of a step up for Miranda Maverick, right? She's been fighting girls like Horth, Barbosa, Lee, and Cachoeira. Big step up here. If she wins, I kind of would be surprised, guys. Shabazian minus 200 versus Petrosky plus 154. Interesting one here. Not enough on the value on Petrosky to get to here. I do think he's alive in this fight. I do think he could win this fight if he can wrestle, get it down, make it ugly. But Shabazian's going to have a big striking advantage. I do believe he catches him at some point on the feet. Shabazian, Shabazian is terrible cardio, right? If it gets into the third round, we've seen Petrosky win many third rounds, go decisions. I know Petrosky doesn't have great cardio, but it's actually better than Shabazian, which says a lot, right? So Shabazian, I do believe, hurts Petrosky on the feet at some point. That's what I'm picturing here. Petrosky, don't believe will have a ton of success wrestling on Shabazian. Shabazian's a big guy too, right? So it's going to be interesting to see the distance that Shabazian plays and just uses his striking. Big power on the feet. We know that. He hurts guys on the feet. I'm not in the business of betting Shabazian as a favorite, right? That's the only thing here. I did take him last time as a favorite. It was a clear winner. I think Budai or whoever he fought. That was a clear path for him. Here's not clear. I'm not confident he wins this fight, even though I'm leaning Shabazian to get the job done here. So at a lean minus 200, I can't really get involved there. I may find a prop that I like on this fight. But as of right now, for podcast purposes, Shabazian is going to be the lean for me. I do believe the striking will be too much of an advantage. I don't believe Petrosky will be able to control Shabazian on the ground if he gets it there. Good fight, though. Interesting fight. Garbrandt, plus 150 versus Barcelos, minus 190, 196 out there. It's a good fight, guys. I think this is a very competitive fight. I think I expect it to be close. I do like the over 2.5 rounds. I don't really see where the finish comes here. Barcelos not really known for finishing guys, more of a decision fighter. Garbrandt, sure he can find a finish, but I don't see him finishing Barcelos. Barcelos obviously priced like this due to that big win over Talbot. He's coming off that big win over Talbot, got his submission win. Garbrandt is coming off a submission loss, but don't get the fool. Barcelo's not really a submission threat a ton. He had that submission win against Talbot. I don't see it being live here, guys. Garbrandt is coming off that loss, though, against Figgy. Figgy did catch him in a submission there. Not too sure what Garbrandt really has left, right? You could also say that about Barcelos, but Barcelos has back-to-back wins. And against Talbot, guys, he knew how to beat Talbot. He knew the takedown defense wasn't there. He just grappled and wrestled his way to win. I don't believe he could do that against Cody here. I don't think he'd just take him down at will, right? We know Cody does have some wrestling in his back pocket there. So I expect this just to be a very close type fight. Should go all 3 rounds. It should. And you can see maybe a split decision type of fight here. So, yes, a little value here with Cody Garbrandt plus 150. But, yeah, the Barcelos, I love the game plan from him. I love the IQ in that fight against Talbot. Right? Maybe he still has something. He's 37, 38. So, yes, of course, end of his career. But I still think he has something. So, value on Garbrandt. I'm not going to call you crazy if you're taking it, but my favorite play is, fight to go the distance. I may fit that into some sort of bet this week. Last one we'll talk about here, guys. Abdul Malik minus 800 versus Brundage plus 550. We don't get involved in these minus 800. We try to find some sort of outcome to improve it. You're not going to improve the outcome. You're not going to improve the price too much with an outcome in this one, even if you do look at the finish prop, which I am leaning on Abdul Malik. Now, he's very raw, 8-0 fighter. Love his wrestling, very well rounded, has some power. He is 2-0 in the UFC, though, so it's not like he's totally raw. Like, if he was 8-0 coming into that and a debut fighter, I always stay away from those guys. In this case, he does have some UFC experience, right? And Brundage, just bottom of the barrel. Just not a great fighter. I don't see how he could win this fight. To be honest. So Abdul Malik is obviously going to be the play for podcast purposes. The question is, how do you get to it? How do you play it? How do you bet it? You can't bet it at minus 800, right? Find an outcome here, leaning TKO, leaning KO finish. It's definitely most likely the outcome here. Obviously, betting outcomes can be tricky at times, of course, but, Brundage, don't believe, just has the cardio. He'll try to go in there, take his head off, and Malik should be able to counter that and win this fight inside the distance. That will do it, guys. That will do it. UFC Atlanta. A couple good fights on this card. Somewhat excited for it, but it is a fight night card. So our expectations are tempered. But like always, I'll be watching the card from start to finish. Like I always say, guys, bet smart and know your limits. We will see you next week.